For the children.
For the children.
Let us make a fool of ourselves. For the children.
For the children.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Kaiju Weekly, the weekly podcast that introduces you to the wide world of giant monster movies. I am your host, Michael, your guy for Sentai, and I am joined by our very good friend. She's always chill and never canceled. The maiden of monstrous interviews, Miss Kaiju Kim. Kim, how are you doing?
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well, madam. How are you this evening? Why did we automatically revert to the British accent?
Because that's what we do.
I suppose we did. Like a couple of awkward nerds just reverting to the British accent.
That's how we roll, sir. That's how we roll.
And we've offended half of our fan bases in the process.
Oh, I do apologize.
Kim, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a hot minute since you've been here. In fact, I think the last time you were on was when we did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. And in that infamous episode, Travis and I spent 20 minutes arguing over whether or not Jurassic Park was a kaiju movie. And I would argue it is still not, but I'm not getting into that today. For those who have been living under a rock and don't know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself to our wonderful audience.
All right. Well, I am known as Kaiju Kim on YouTube. I have a show called Chill with Kaiju Kim that streams live on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where I chill and talk with other members of the kaiju community. I actually had Michael and Travis on not too long ago talking about Kaiju Ramen Volume 1.
Kaiju Ramen, what's that?
Some sort of magazine these two fools are doing.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know. I mean, I see the kaiju, but where's the ramen? I don't know what's going on.
I really wanted ramen today. Today was my day off, and I really wanted ramen today, but I had to settle for chili because I did not have the ingredients to make my own ramen today. So, oh well.
My condolences.
I know, right? It's like how can I best spend my day off on Martin Luther King Day and not make ramen? I mean, come on. Like I feel like a horrible person now.
You are a horrible person, but that's okay. I still love you.
Wow. Wow. Well, that does it for this week's episode of Kaiju Weekly, guys. Okay. But welcome back, Kim. It's always a pleasure when you come on. Seriously, like you're one of our favorite people, not just to come on the podcast, but to interact with just on and offline as well. But I guess we're all online at this point, but I guess on and off cast is what I probably should say. But yeah, you're one of our favorite people. Travis and I love everything that you do with your YouTube channel and all the interviews. You just actually published a really wonderful interview with Mike's Monsters, correct?
Indeed. Yeah, he was a really fun guy to talk to. Interview went really well. We bounced off each other really well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, there was a lot of awkward nerd energy going on that episode. But no, I mean, Mike is a wonderful, wonderful guy to work with. Like we got acquainted with Mike working on Kaiju Ramen. He did Kaiju Ramen issue number 4 for us, and he does fantastic work. And I have been saying the last couple of weeks as I've been talking to a lot of people, it's like I'm a sucker. To keep it PG, I'm a sucker for good toy photography. So Mike is definitely one of the best.
Yeah, he does really good work. I'm very impressed with what he does. And thank you for having me on the show, Michael. It is good to be back. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, we do have a little bit of news to cover. And for those who are not familiar with our podcast, or for the uninitiated, we do like to cover the news on this show, hence the name Kaiju Weekly. We try to cover at least a little bit of news every week. And when there's not news, we always like to play a game or something. But there is just a tiny little bit of news to cover this week. So, Kim, Do you know what we have to say next?
Well, I think we have to cue the beady beady.
Cue the beady beady. And before we get into the real news, I do have a little bit of housekeeping to do. So Kaiju Ramen Volume 1, the Kickstarter that Travis and I started this for the 1st of January. Geez, I'm forgetting what day it is. It's like what is it? 17 days into January and I'm already behind.
Yeah,
But
outstanding.
yeah, exactly. But on January 1, Travis and I started a Kickstarter called Kaiju Ramen Volume 1, which is a collected issue or collected book of all 4 issues that we've published so far, along with some goodies. Um, to do a little bit of self promotion, we are well over 100% funded. In fact, we are I think we're a little over $1,900 over our goal. So we're like almost $2,000 over our goal
Hooray.
at this point. Yeah, it's like, and it's been fantastic. It's so humbling to have people support us and have wonderful people like you, Kim, that have supported this thing from day one. And so yeah, we're overfunded, but we've still got about 2 weeks left to go in the campaign. And I just want to repeat, because if anyone who's not familiar with this project, I will throw a link into the description below that you can go check it out. But I want to just reiterate that the only way to get Kaiju Ramen Volume 1 is through Kickstarter, because once it's gone, it is gone and there's going to be no more. Then we wanted to do that because we wanted to make it very, very special to the people who have supported us and loved on this project since day one. And it's going to feature some neat things like a forward by the Podfather himself, Mr. Kyle Yount, and a beautiful, let me just say, beautiful cover by Mr. Matt Frank. And if you don't know who Matt Frank is, you've lived under a rock for about 20 years. But anyway, so there's all kinds of goodies and things attached to that. There are several tiers available. We want to encourage all of our listeners, if you've not had a chance to go back Kaiju Ramen Volume 1 on Kickstarter, please do so, because you are putting your money towards helping independent creators, independent artists, and the like, this in this volume and this coming year. And you're doing a little bit of good. You're doing God's work, Godzilla's work, by supporting Kaiju Ramen magazine, because we do our best to steward this genre and steward this fandom and this magazine as best we can. But that's enough of the self promotion. I'm sure people are getting sick and tired of Travis and I self promoting ourselves. So, Kim, we do actually have a little bit of news to talk about. That's legitimate news.
Mhm.
The first little bit of news is a couple of weeks ago, Travis and I talked about a new comic book crossover that's coming to shelves this March, I believe,
Yeah.
which is Godzilla versus the Power Rangers. This is a crossover we've waited for a long time. I know you and I both have been dying to see something like this. I think you're just about as diehard a Power Rangers fan as I am, correct?
Um, I think I might be not quite at your level, but close.
You're close. I will give you that. You are close. But so Boom Studios, in collaboration with IDW, is going to be publishing a comic book called Godzilla versus the Power Rangers. Now, we've already talked about that on our news roundup episode. So if you want to know full details about that whole project, please go listen to that episode. I believe it was our first episode of the year. So it was the one right after Clifford. I don't think there's actually a number attached to it. It may be episode 101, who knows. But go look for our news roundup in our podcast feed and go listen to that if you're interested in getting full details on it. But the reason why I'm bringing this back for this particular episode is Freddie Williams II showed off an interesting cover mashup, or not mashup, but a cover scape or a cover something like a nice image of Godzilla and the Power Rangers. But what's really interesting about this, and this is something Travis and I talked about on that news episode, we were wondering specifically if there were going to be other characters from the Toho universe to show up in this crossover comic. And if this image that we found on the interwebs is to be believed, I don't think Godzilla is going to be the only quote unquote kaiju in this crossover.
Ooh.
So, Kim, have you gotten a chance to look at the image? Have you gotten a chance to look at the image yet?
I have looked at the image, and I do see a three-headed kaiju in the corner there, which I'm
Ooh.
not surprised that he may or may not be in this because
Right,
he's Godzilla's arch enemy.
right.
I am very interested to see if it's going to be like a team up, if Godzilla's going to team up with the Power Rangers, or it's going to be like a free for all. I don't
I'm
know.
I'm interested to see that too. Like the way I would personally write it, and this may be a very basic way to write it, but the way I would personally write it is, the Power Rangers travel back in time or travel into this alternate dimension or this alternate universe with Godzilla and other kaiju. Um, Rita Repulsa tries to control Godzilla. Godzilla, of course, cannot be controlled. Come on, people.
Come on, guys.
Um, so she has to turn to another kaiju to help get the job done. And then we get the entrance of King Ghidorah or King Ghidorah uh, to assist our villains in the battle. But what I find really interesting about this image, and again, this is just an image. We don't know if all this is going to come to fruition in the actual comic book, but we're just kind of dreaming here. I see some interesting little spaceships in that image, which leads me to believe that maybe we're going to get an appearance by the Exilians in this
Ooh,
crossover comic as well.
that would be really cool, actually.
It'll be interesting to see what happens there because I would want to see it's thinking about it, it's like to see the Moon Crew with Rita Repulsa, Goldar, and etc. All those guys, maybe Zed, but we don't know if Zed is confirmed for this comic book. I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Um, to see them team up or join forces with the Exilians will be a really interesting little thing. It's going to be an interesting thing to see or to read. I know that I'm excited for this. I've already pre-ordered. I actually double dipped on this one. I pre-ordered the original variant, the variant 1 cover with the Godzilla and the Power Rangers, and then I think the number 2 cover or cover B is the one where Godzilla is actually facing off with the Dragon Zord. And because obviously I had to double dip, right?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So I've got both of these coming to me. I'm excited for the series. So Kim, I know we talked a little bit about this on your show back when you had Travis and I on, but just kind of give us some brief thoughts on what your thoughts, opinions, excitement level is for this crossover.
I'm very excited for this. It's always cool to see two of my childhood, franchises clash together. It's weird and awesome at the same time. And I'm wondering, like, if it's going to take place like in modern day, or is it going to take place in the '90s?
Mhm.
Because we see the Heisei Godzilla there,
Sure.
but I don't know.
I
I'm
mean
very
that
interested to see what they do with it.
the design of Godzilla, I don't think that really tells me anything because IDW has kind of really loved to lean into the Heisei Godzilla. They don't do a lot of Showa. I know when Matt was doing the Rulers of Earth comic, he used what was it? He used Kiryu Goji, the one from the Kiryu duology, the
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla 2002 for the uninitiated, the suit from 2002. Um, so that's I think, but primarily, IDW has been using Heisei-ish Godzillas to do. So I mean, and makes sense because for a lot of fans that are fans of Godzilla, that are fans from the '90s, Power Rangers and whatnot, probably I would say that the Heisei Godzilla is probably the most iconic in their mind.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I know Heisei Godzilla, if I'm not mistaken, Heisei Godzilla is the most iconic for you, correct?
It is. I'm a huge fan of the Heisei era. I think that's my favorite era overall, generally speaking. So yeah.
Good to know. Like diehard Heisei fans are hard to find. I feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of Showa stands out there, and
Mhm.
there's a good portion of the fandom that really loves the Millennium era with like GMK, Godzilla 2000, etc. But it seems like you talked about this on your show, so I don't want to kind of dig in there. I want people to go watch your show when you talked about it. But it seems like a lot of fans just don't really care for the Heisei era all that much. So.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the Heisei era gets the most hate out of all the Godzilla eras, it seems like.
Mhm.
And it's like I don't know where the hate came from. Like maybe like a super popular person decided, "Oh, I hate the Heisei era," and then everyone just followed suit. That's just that. I'm assuming that's what's
I
happening.
feel
But
like it has the most continuity out of the franchise.
yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love it so much because of the continuity.
For sure. But bringing it back to this comic, I'm super excited. Like we don't know a whole lot more about it outside of just a plot synopsis. And again, if you want to hear me and Travis talk all about that, go listen to our news roundup episode where we spend in good detail talking about this crossover comic and what it could be and what it could mean for the future of both the Godzilla and the Power Rangers franchise, because it seems like both franchises are getting loved on, very much so in the last couple of years. Like there's this upswell, I feel like, of Ranger fans, especially with Hasbro being good stewards of the franchise. And of course Godzilla's seen some resurgence as well in the last couple of years, or last few years rather, with the MonsterVerse. So should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Indeed,
Yeah. So the next little bit of news is just some quick toy news, some quick collector news, because Kim, you and I both, we like our toys.
we love our toys.
We love our toys so much. I'm like, I know Travis is not a big toy collector. He has some, and I have bought him some just as like as thank you gifts or something like that, just to help him add to his collection. But I know Travis is not huge into that collectors community as much as you and I are. But Playmates continues to expand on their GVK line of toys with two new additions, which are Battle Roar Godzilla and Battle Roar Mechagodzilla. Kim, have you had a chance to see the images of these two pieces, and if you have, what do you think?
I have seen. I actually went on the Playmates website and watched a couple of videos on. I actually saw the Battle Roar Godzilla in their lineup already, and according to the video, the sound they're supposed to make a sound, and it sounds
Mhm.
like they got ran over by a bus. So it doesn't sound that great.
Well, I mean, what do you expect? What is this? This is their 6-inch line, right? I can't remember.
7 inch, I think it
Was it their
is.
7-inch line? So what can you expect from like a $13-15 toy at the most? I mean,
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
like $15.
Yeah, which, like, I'm not trying to hate on Playmates. Enough people hate on Playmates. I have a few Playmates toys. Like, so I'm in no room to talk. But it's basically Playmates are taking the same molds, the same sculpts that they've been using since the first wave of toys, and just adding sound effects to them, which is fine. It's that's just the way the toy business goes. They just reuse the molds, and they do like little tweaks to them, and collectors go, ooh,
Mhm.
it's brand new, kind of. But yeah, I mean, they're fine. Like they're fine. I have like I don't know if I'll plan on picking these up per se. I have the version of the version of Godzilla that they're going to be using for this, which is the if I'm not I'm trying to think of what it's called, the battle ready Godzilla, where it's trying to emulate that scene in Godzilla versus Kong where Godzilla's on all fours and he's very crocodilian or whatever. So
Mhm.
like I have that one, and I like it. It's a nice figure. I don't actually have a Mechagodzilla, so if I see one of these out in the wild and I can get my hands on a Mechagodzilla, great. But it seems like Mechagodzilla has been the hardest one to find out of this entire wave. Um, so I mean, I'll probably grab one if I see it out and I like it enough, but it's not something I'm super excited about. But it is worth mentioning to the folks out there who like to collect toys but don't like to spend the price of their firstborn child or their kidney on them.
Yeah, some of these figures can get pretty expensive, but yeah, Playmates is reasonably priced, for the quality that it is. But yeah, I might get the Mechagodzilla one, but I kind of have to be really stingy with my money nowadays since I don't have paid work coming in right now. So gotta. But yeah.
Which, sidebar, if anyone out there needs video work done, I know somebody, and she's great.
Oh, I wonder who that is.
I don't know. It could be somebody by the name of Kai Boo. I don't know. I'm not even. It's you, Kim. I can't even make. I can't even make stuff up right now. It's so late in the evening, right? Well, it's not super late. It's like 6:30, but
I mean, but it's your day off and your brain's not working
yeah,
properly. So.
right. It's my day off. My brain's not working. All that stuff. But no, seriously, like, people need to, like, our listeners. If you've got video projects coming up, please reach out to Kaiju Kim, because she's fantastic, and you need to support your local artist. Go to Kaiju Kim, because she will put a loving touch to whatever video project you have.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. No problem at all. But, to kind of wrap things up on the Playmate side, they're good. They're going to be fun for the price. I think Playmates has a good value to them, and just adding a line of toys that makes noise makes sense to us. So, look for them I don't know where they're going to be available. I'm assuming Walmart, Target, the usual suspects. So just be on the lookout. No clear. I don't think any release date has been said. They're probably just going to be like every other Playmates toy and just pop up one day and it's like, oh, well, there it is. So the next little bit of news we got to talk about, and this is the last little bit of important news that we need to cover before we move on to our main topic. But we are going to get a Jurassic World Dominion extended trailer / preview, and we're going to get that on Super Bowl Sunday.
Nice.
Sunday, February the 13th. No specific time slot. You could probably look that up somewhere and it'll tell you what time slot it'll be. But yeah, we're gonna get an extended look at Jurassic World Dominion, which comes out in June. I think it's June 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's June 10th, because June is our Jurassic June month. So we're gonna do all dinosaur movies to help celebrate the debut of Jurassic World Dominion. So, Kim, I want to ask you: have you been following Jurassic World Dominion? Have you been following that stuff up through now?
Not really. I know that it was being made. I haven't really kept up with it too much, but I have seen the last two Jurassic World films, and I'm excited for them to bring back some of the characters from the original Jurassic Park in this film.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I won't be watching the Super Bowl because I couldn't care less about sports, but I will definitely catch the trailer when it when it drops on YouTube the next day. I'll watch it then.
Amen. Like, I could care less about sports ball. Now, and this is also coming from someone who played soccer in high school. Like, I still, even to this day, I love to play soccer. Or football for our pals across the pond, or everywhere else in the world, actually, other than America.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit of rec league basketball in middle school and high school, but as I got older, I could have cared less about sports as I've gotten older. It's just, I don't know, it's just one more thing that I don't have time to follow, but I do like the Super Bowl commercials. So I have to ask, what has been your favorite Super Bowl commercial to date that you can remember?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember any Super Bowl commercials. Nothing comes to mind really.
Shame on you.
I don't pay attention to that stuff. I watch the Puppy Bowl.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yes, the Puppy Bowl is fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, the Puppy Bowl is fantastic. If you love animals, especially if you love puppies, go watch the Puppy Bowl. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a Kitty Bowl too? Is there a kitten bowl?
I think so. There might be.
Is there a kitten bowl where it's like the whole concept? Basically, the whole concept, if you don't know what we're talking about, the whole concept is they film puppies in a makeshift arena, and they throw a ball into the middle of the arena and let them play with the football. and then they try to call the plays as they're playing. It's incredibly adorable. And I actually I'm with Kim. I actually enjoyed that more than the actual Super Bowl itself.
Yeah, totally check it out. Like, I mean, who doesn't like puppies?
And if you don't like puppies, you're just an awful person if you don't like puppies.
Yeah, seriously.
Seriously. If you don't like honestly, I get why people don't like cats, but come on, kittens, like everyone likes kittens.
Come on,
They're just
guys.
so soft and they're just so anyway, we don't have time to talk. We don't have time to gush about kittens and puppies, but yes, the Jurassic World Dominion. You'll be able to get a first look at Jurassic World Dominion on Sunday, February 13th during the Super Bowl. So if you are a person who watches sports ball and if you are a person who watches the Super Bowl, be on the lookout for Jurassic World Dominion. Should be a fun time. I'll probably be like Kim and watch it the next day on YouTube, but you do you. So that does it for our news this week. Like I said, we had just some short things that we wanted to cover. We do actually have a topic to talk about, but before we do that, every episode we like to ask a trivia question that leads into the topic that we're going to be discussing for each episode. And the trivia question that I asked during the Q&A episode that I published last week was, the now retired pro wrestler Brian Burnick used the name of which Toho favorite as his ring name? And we got some pretty interesting answers. And so I guess, Kim, if you want to, you and I can kind of go back and forth and read these off together. So I'll start us off with our friend in Germany, Chris Degel. Chris Degelman, I think his Twitter handle, if I'm not mistaken, is Degel Tunes on Twitter. Go check him out. He's fantastic. He writes in and says, Emperor Antonio of Seatopia, which sounds like a pretty cool ring name, but that's not the right answer.
Nope. All right. Emperor Antonio, he does kind of look like an Antonio if you look at his face. Anyway, so
I mean, I think it's the mutton chops and the tattoo. I think that's what does it.
Yeah, that's what does it.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Our next answer comes from Crystal Lady Jessica, and she says, Baka told me to say little man Machen, but honestly, I only did it because Minya is cute.
I mean, Minya is cute, which is for the uninitiated, little man Machan or little man McCann. I think it's how you're supposed to say it. I believe. I don't know. Refers to the working name for the actor who actually played Minya in Son of Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters and All Monsters Attack, Mr. Masao Fukuza. Masao Fukazawa. Sorry, I have totally screwed that up. And this will not be the only time this episode that I screw up a Japanese name. I am so sorry. I apologize in advance. But that little man McCann refers to that actor. So Spiderus writes in on Twitter, Godzilla or Rodan? I mean, pretty safe answers there, but I don't know, like outside of Godzilla, now introducing, weighing in at 455 metric tons, Godzilla. I mean, that sounds cool, but
that does sound cool.
Yeah. And then flying in from parts unknown, Rodan. Kinda. That sounds
sounds lame.
That's not as cool, but good guess nonetheless. Spiderus, thank you so much for that.
Fantastic. All right, next we have our friend Danny DeMana of the
Mr. Danny boy. How you doing, good sir?
Very good. Right, so his answer is Brian Turbine Ocelot Burnick, and I recall he liked to use the smack 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 finishing move.
I think you have to say I think it's required that you say it like in the movie. You have to say smack, smack, smack like in the movie.
Okay, smack, smack, smack.
There you go. That's fantastic. That makes for good radio. But thank you, Danny, for that answer. Danny is, again, one of our very good friends at the Godzilla novelization project. The next answer comes from our friends at the Henshin Men podcast, which is the podcast run by our friend Nathan Marchand and the co-host of Kaiju Weekly, Travis Alexander. And they just write Zone Fighter, which is kind of funny because in this movie that we're going to be talking about, it features a couple of kaiju it features a couple of kaiju that would show up later on in a Zone Fighter episode. So that's fun.
Oh, yeah. Interesting indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Zone Fighter, for the uninitiated, Zone Fighter was Toho's attempt at an Ultraman series, basically.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
All right. Our next answer comes from I've never heard of this guy, Nathan Marchland.
Marchland.
Marchand.
We're just gonna go with Marchland because I think that's the way you say his name.
Okay, Marchland. All right, so Nathan Marchland sent us a GIF of King Kong Bundy, which is a wrestler of some sort.
Mm-hmm. It actually is the name of a real professional wrestler from the 80s. I remember watching wrestling as a kid, and King Kong Bundy was on TV.
Yeah, this was before my time then, because I did watch wrestling in the past, but I've never seen King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, he's it's because I'm old. It's because I'm old, Kim.
You are old. You're ancient. You're only like 5 years older than me. I'm not calling you ancient.
Oh boy, it's getting deep in here. Moving on. Mr. Jimmy from Nasada sent in a GIF as his answer, and his GIF, or GIF, however you say it, was of Singular Point Jet Jaguar, which is technically not correct, Jimmy, because it's not the same character. It may be the same. It may be the same character to you, but it's technically not the same character in universe. So I'm gonna have to say this answer is wrong. I'm so sorry. I wish I had one of those buttons like. Yeah.
I have one at my dad's house. I should grab it for next time.
You should. That would be so much fun.
All right, and the next answer here is from Forever a Simp, and he says Jet Jaguar.
Oh, okay. So does he simp Jet Jaguar?
I guess so.
I mean, his name would imply he's a simp. So
I'm forever a simp. He forever simps Jet Jaguar. I mean,
it would make sense to me.
Makes sense to me as well.
Okay, well, thanks, Forever a Simp, for simping on Jet Jaguar and sending in that answer. We really appreciate it. And our final answer to this trivia question comes in from friend of the podcast, Mr. Nick Blackler. You know Nick, don't you, Kim?
I do.
Yeah, Kim or Nick's all over the place, man. He's listening to everybody, I feel like, and he's been one of our most outspoken fans since, I mean, I don't know, for probably for over a year or so now. But he sent in his answer, and he sent in a very well photoshopped image. And his answer was Big Baby Baragon and his famous finishing move, the Baragon Beatdown. And that's the bottom line, because Baragon said so. Okay, right. It's getting a little deep.
All right. Let's move it along.
And the image for anyone, like, I totally just used the wrong. I should have used "What you gonna do, brother, when Baragon runs wild on you," because he sent in a photoshopped image of Hulk Hogan from the 80s with Baragon's face photoshopped on top of it, which like looks amazing. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous job. Thank you, Nick, for doing that. But And thank you just for your participation on the podcast. It's always a lot of fun. So thank you, Nick, for that. And thank you to everyone who sent in a trivia question answer. As you noticed, they don't always have to be the right answer. They can be the right answer, but they don't always have to be the right answer. We have a lot of fun with the wrong answers too on this podcast. So we appreciate every last one of you for doing that. But if you've not figured it out by now, well, the title probably gave it away.
I mean, yeah.
The title of the episode gave it away. But if you've not figured it, if you're not figuring it out by now, we're going to be talking about Godzilla versus Megalon from 1973. And I'm going to put Kim on the spot and have her read all of these Japanese names that I can't pronounce.
Oh, what are you doing to me? Okay.
No. I'm kidding. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna butcher all these names.
I was about to whistle you to high heaven.
I know. I'm gonna butcher all these names, so you get to sit back and laugh at me.
My favorite thing to do.
Right. I know. It's fine. So Godzilla vs. Megalon was directed by Jun Fukuda. The score was by Richiro Manabe. Screenplay by Suzeki Sakazawa, Jun Fukuda, Takeshi Kimura. I did pretty good there. It stars Katsuko Suzaki as the inventor Goro, Hiro Yuki. Okay.
This is painful.
Should I keep going or should I just quit and cut my losses?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of entertaining for me. It might be entertaining for the folks playing at home, but it's your choice. You want to?
There is a guy. There is a guy on here named Wolf. There is a guy just named Wolf that plays the Seatopian agent, which is fun. So let's okay. Shinji Takagiri. No, that's not right. That's not right. Wow. That's not right at all. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to cut my losses and not do these. Yeah. So if you want to know the cast and crew outside of who directed it, scored it, and screenplayed it, go look it up on Godzilla Wiki, and you'll see it there. Because I don't want to offend people, and two, I don't want to embarrass myself more than I already have. So Kim, mm-hmm. What is our plot breakdown for Godzilla versus Megalon?
Okay, so this lovely family called the Seatopians, who live underground, have been having some trouble with their upstairs neighbors, the Earth people. And they've been doing all kinds of nuclear tests, making a lot of noise, causing a lot of damage. It's obnoxious, really.
Right.
So the Seatopians file a complaint with their landlord, which is a giant beetle named Megalon, and they send some of their family members to steal this guy's robot, whose name is Jet Jaguar. Apparently, they need him to direct Megalon to Tokyo because they didn't have GPS at the time. I mean, this is 1973. Right. All right. So then Kenny is like, you know what this movie needs? Godzilla. And then the dude who built Jet Jaguar is like, oh, I can totally send him to get Godzilla using this remote control device that I conveniently have. And then Godzilla gets stuck in traffic on his way to the mainland while Jet Jaguar decides to grow to kaiju size to hold off Megalon, which comes as a surprise to the guy who built him for some reason. Anyway, meanwhile, the Seatopians are like, oh crap, we need another monster. So they call up Rent-A-Monster, and they borrow Gigan for the day. So then Gigan and Megalon beat up Jet Jaguar, until finally the star of the movie shows up and traditional Godzilla violence ensues. The end.
Splendid. Great job with that. I knew I could count on you to deliver something really epic. Thank you for that. And really, like, I have the same issues with my neighbors too. I kind of wish I could call a giant beetle named Megalon and deal with them as well. But we're not here to talk about that. But yeah. I will say, Nick, I know you're listening. I need a graphic or a logo or something for Rent-A-Monster. So please make that happen. I know you're listening. Rent-A-Monster, that is your assignment for this week. And Travis and I would really, really appreciate it. Anyway, Godzilla versus Megalon. It's one of those movies. Honestly, it's one of those movies. It's one of those Godzilla movies that gets a lot of crap thrown at it
Hmm.
from fans. But in my opinion, after kind of watching it this last time, I think there's probably there's a case to be made that Godzilla versus Megalon is one of those films that maybe deserves a little bit of a reevaluation, similar to how the fans kind of started to reevaluate All Monsters Attack a couple of years ago, because there is a lot with Godzilla versus Megalon to enjoy. Um, so Kim, I'll ask you, what are your opening thoughts on Godzilla versus Megalon?
Godzilla vs. Megalon is one of those films where you either love it or
Mhm.
you hate it.
Right.
And I absolutely love it. This movie puts a huge, goofy smile on my face every single time I watch it. It's so much fun. The music is weird, but in a good way. The fights are awesome. And it's just an overall feel good, turn off your brain, sit back with some popcorn movie. And
Mhm.
I think this is the movie that solidified Godzilla as a hero in my mind. I
Mhm.
personally love Hero Godzilla. I grew up with him. Like, even in films where he's meant to be the villain, I always see him as a hero. And I think this movie is responsible for that.
Yeah, I think there have been some movies up to this point where Godzilla has not necessarily been the hero per se, but like a very obvious hero, but maybe like the anti-hero,
Hmm.
which is kind of maybe what you're seeing there. And I'm not disagreeing. I think that Godzilla has played the role of hero. I think Godzilla has, or I know Godzilla has, the character of Godzilla, I should say, has played so many different roles within his own franchise. He's been the villain, he's been the anti-hero, he's been just the Superman, I'm Batman type hero. Like like I know a lot of fans love Terror of Mechagodzilla, and in that movie Godzilla has his I'm Batman moment where,
I love that moment.
yeah, he has that moment where he is really just coming in to save the day. And I think that Godzilla versus Megalon is one of those movies where, like you said, you either love it or you hate it. But for the most part, fans love it. But I don't know if I can't tell if it's necessarily in an ironic way, in an ironic way, or if it's genuine love for this movie.
I mean, in my case, it's genuine love.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Like,
know a lot of diehard Godzilla fans love it. I was talking to Danny. I was talking with our friend Danny DeMana earlier today, and he unabashedly loves this movie. And I know a lot of fans who do unabashedly love this movie. In fact, I was one of those fans who would talk pure crap about this movie, and then I go back and watch it a few more times as I got older, and I'm sitting here thinking, this is not as bad as what people like to make it out to be.
it really isn't. It usually isn't in that case. They like to blow things out of proportion, I feel like.
Mhm.
Like, oh, it's so bad, but like, just watch it again, and then you just be like, oh, it's not that bad.
I think it's one of those movies you do, I admit, you do have to be kind of in the mood for,
Yeah.
because you do have to be kind of in the mood for it. Like if you're in the mood for like some just upbeat, like lighthearted, campy Godzilla monster wrestling fun, Mechalon is your thing. Like that is totally your thing. But if you're not into that, or if you're just not in the mood for that, this may not be up your alley for that moment, I should say. But yeah, Godzilla versus Megalon is just one of those weird, and I emphasize weird,
Mhm.
little movies that has kind of come in and out of consciousness of the fandom over the years, at least the time I've been heavily involved in it, as either something they love or something they hate or something just they're kind of meh about. Like I grew up with Godzilla versus Megalon. Godzilla versus Megalon was one of the first um VHS tapes I ever owned of a Godzilla movie. I remember I remember I was out and about with my mom. This is when I was a little younger, or a lot younger. We were at the Dollar General, and they always had like a discount video rack. And the tape that they had, the Godzilla tape they had there was Godzilla versus Megalon and Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster, which is what was the American title was for Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 74. And I just remember buying this videotape. It was like $3. It was like $2 or $3 and bringing it home and watching it and enjoying the heck out of it. And as I got older, I kind of fell out of love with it because I liked more of the serious stuff. I was one of those guys that was, I was one of those guys who like, it's either Gojira 54 or nothing. I was one of those guys. But as I've gotten older, I've started to enjoy the more lighthearted stuff and just enjoy it for what it is, because there is a lot to enjoy here. So before we get into any further into the discussion on this movie, for anyone who is uninitiated to our podcast, or if this is your first time listening, we like to do something we like to call our positivity sandwich. So we start with our positives. We sprinkle in some negatives, maybe spread some negativity mayonnaise in there, and then we try to end with some positives. So Kim, what are some big positives that you want to start off with for Godzilla versus Megalon?
Some big positives. Well, I've always liked the Godzilla suit in this one because I think he looks absolutely adorable.
Even with his doll eyes?
He's so cute. I love the doll eyes. I mean, as someone who used to be scared of Godzilla as a child, I can say this was the first time watching a Godzilla movie and not being scared of him, because he looks so child friendly and cuddly and cute. I like him. I love him so much.
Yeah, the Godzilla suit in this is definitely unique. This is the first time we see cannot remember what the suit name of it is. I think it might be Megaro Goji or something like that. I can't remember. But this is the first time we see this suit. This is the first time it's used. Because prior to this, it was Godzilla versus Gigan before this film, and that was the film that retired the 68 suit, the one that debuted in Destroy All Monsters. So this was a completely brand new suit for Godzilla, and you're right, it is more on the adorable side, and I think that there's a huge reason for that, because this movie, Godzilla versus Megalon, was geared towards children, or I would say younger adolescents. We'll say that, because there are some kind of more, I don't know if mature is the word I'm trying to use here, but there are some higher level themes that they're trying to play with, like nuclear testing and whatnot. And that's something that's been touched on before in Godzilla films, and like a lot of kaiju films touched on the concept or the idea of nuclear testing being bad. But this movie was done to be something very accessible to a younger audience, and I think that's clearly reflected in the Godzilla suit itself.
Yeah, and like what you were talking about, like with the nuclear themes and stuff, I think that's um why I like this film so much. One of the reasons, anyways, because they take something serious like nuclear testing and they make it accessible for kids, and yeah, I think that's what they were going for at that time. Toho, making Godzilla more accessible for kids. That's
Right.
why they entered in what I like to call Godzilla's derpy phase. So,
Well, to be fair, Gamera was already in his derpy phase at this point.
that's
and
true.
yeah, so the progression of Godzilla being, this is not the first time we've seen Godzilla be kid friendly or family friendly. Like it
Hmm.
started with Son of Godzilla, I think. Yeah. It started with Son of Godzilla, and then Godzilla kind of progressively got more family friendly as the franchise moved along. And this was just kind of that I think that was just like this film was just sort of the culmination of that, like bringing all that stuff that they had learned up to this point about like viewership and what kids liked and what families wanted to and what families wanted to come and see. This was just sort of the culmination of that, and it's a really interesting progression to see that happen within the franchise.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So one of my positives And one of my positives for this particular movie is the score, and we touched on it a little bit in the opening conversation. But this has one of the more unique scores to a Godzilla movie. You don't hear at all the Godzilla march. Like, this is one of the few times you don't hear the dun 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 dun. You don't hear that. You don't even hear like the more upbeat version of that Godzilla march at all. Like, this score is completely brand new. It's weird. It uses a lot of like different like kind of like psychedelic sounding sound effects to it, and it's very 1970s. I thought, in my opinion,
Yeah, I agree.
it's very 1970s, but it's fun. It's weird, but it's fun.
Like, yeah, that was one of my positive as well as the soundtracks and the score. Like, it's bouncy. Like, and, you listen to you're watching a movie, you're listening to the music. I'm at least when I hear bouncy music, I like bounce up and down as I'm watching, and I smile and I have a good time.
I could just picture you like as you're watching Godzilla versus Megalon, you're just kind of bouncing along in your
I
chair,
do, I love
just
it.
just living your best life. I can see that.
Mm,
It's a lot of like this movie is a lot of fun. This movie is a lot of fun. One of my other positives, and I was as I was kind of watching this, was in this movie we got not one, but we got one new monster but two new suits, and I'll explain in a minute. What the new monster we got in this movie was Megalon, which in
mhm.
the title implies, with Megalon, which is this giant roach creature with with it kind of looks like a in a way, he kind of looks like a rhinoceros beetle, if I'm thinking, or what is the emperor beetle or something with the giant crest on its forehead. I can't remember the name of
Yeah.
it, actually escapes me, but that's what it kind of looks like, and it's completely new to the franchise at this point. And I will admit I'm not a kaiju historian like a lot of folks that we get to have we that we get to talk to. So I don't know exactly the history behind the Megalon suit, but it is really interesting that they chose this movie to do a completely brand new suit for it. And I think it worked to its benefit, because the Megalon suit does look fantastic. It does look fantastic. One other thing to mention about the suits is we see the return of Gigan, which Gigan is one of my favorite uh non-Godzilla characters within the Godzilla universe, because I just like the design. I like Gigan's look. It's menacing. It's just really interesting because he doesn't have actual hands like a typical, or paws or claws like a typical kaiju would, like you would expect. But he has hooks for hands. He's very like cyborg, mechanical looking, especially in his debut film in '72. But in this one, they redid the suit from the ground up. And what was I was talking with when I was talking to our friend Danny, he mentioned that the reason why they had to do that is because the suit from the previous film was just so incredibly uncomfortable. They had to redo it so that the suit actor could move around a little bit more. And you can kind of see that in this film,
Mhm.
where the kaiju, Godzilla, Jaguar, Megalon, and Gigan especially are a little bit more animated. They got a little bit more personality to them. One of the things that sets this Gigan apart from the previous Gigan was in the previous Gigan, there was a motorized buzzsaw in the stomach portion of the suit that is not present in this movie. Like, anytime you see that, it's stock footage from the previous movie. So they like everything has was made out of softer materials, which kind of gives Gigan in this movie a little bit of a pot belly. I call this the pot belly Gigan, because in this one he's a little chunkier. He's put on some pounds since kind of hanging out in I envision him kind of maybe resting up in the
And the
nebula
Rent a Monster parking lot.
and the Rent a Monster parking lot, just kind of waiting for his call to come in. And maybe he's drinking a little bit too much sake and he's put on some pounds. Who knows? I don't know. But this suit is definitely different, and a lot of people like this Gigan suit more than the previous one. But for me, I still like the previous one more. But this one fits the characterization of Gigan for this film.
I agree. Yeah, I like chubby guy again. Chubby kaiju are cute.
So, what, Kim? Let me ask you, what did you think about our human cast in this particular film?
I could take them or leave them. I mean, I wasn't like super intrigued by them, but you
Mhm.
know, they were okay, I guess, for what they were trying to do.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, they were serviceable. They were serviceable. Now, let me ask you, and this is very important. Did you, when you were rewatching this movie, did you
Mhm.
watch it subbed or did you watch the dub?
I watched the dub.
Wow, you watched the dub. You just outed yourself. You didn't watch the
What?
sub? Like a
So
good
what?
like a good you mean to tell me as a longtime Godzilla fan, Kim, you watched the dub?
Guilty as charged.
How dare you watch the dub? Only true Godzilla fans watch. I can't even I can't even finish what I was going to
Oh
say.
my goodness gracious.
To be perfectly, but to be like frankly honest with you, I watched the dub too. I didn't watch the sub for this.
Yeah,
Um
no, you gotta watch the dub. The dub is what we grew up with.
because the dub for this is just so glorious.
It adds to the charm.
It does. I think it adds to the charm. I think it does because when you watch this subtitled, it's like
It's not the same.
it's not. It's like, and this is probably not gonna. This is gonna be an opinion that maybe ruffles some feathers, but it ends up just being another Godzilla movie, but with just a bad plot. If you watch it subbed, you start paying attention to you start paying attention to how objectively not good this movie is, and you ignore to some degree, not fully, but you ignore to some degree, in my opinion, how fun it is. And I think for me as a fan of Godzilla and a fan of dubs in general, because that's what we grew, like you said, it's what we grew up with. I think the dub adds something to this movie that just makes it that much more enjoyable. Except, except for our child protagonist.
Oh, I can't stand the voice for that one.
What do you mean, Jet Jaguar? What do you mean?
What
What do you
is
mean?
that voices? I never heard them before.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It's I don't know. I can't even do it. It's so awful. I can't even do the voice.
Oh my god.
But no, this is definitely the Godzilla franchise's version of a Kenny. And if for the uninitiated, a Kenny just refers to a child protagonist who happens to be of the more annoying persuasion. We'll say that. And it
Yeah.
was coined because in the Gamera franchise, Godzilla's rival, they used a lot of child actors and actresses that were just a chore to watch. Well, I'll be kind, but this was Godzilla's Kenny. You know, yes, it for me it doesn't really drag the film down,
Mhm.
but when the kid is on screen, it's like I want to fast forward through everything this kid is about to say because it's
Yeah,
just
just like I don't mind. I kind of don't mind that you're there, but can you just like not speak?
right. Yeah.
It's just like such an annoying voice. Like they couldn't pick a less annoying dub actor.
Who
I don't
knows? I don't. Who knows? But like the other human protagonists are fine. Goro is fine.
know. Hmm.
The inventor character, and his partner, his friend,
His race
uh,
car driver friend,
his race car driver friend, which is
Japanese speed racer.
so random. Like it's so random. There are
Yeah.
so many car chases
Mhm.
and let's just say vehicle chases in general in
Yeah.
this movie. And I was talking to Danny about this movie, and he said, yeah, a lot of that was just put in to pad the runtime, which you
Yeah.
know, in my in, and in my notes I wrote chase scenes equal easy padding. Poor Fukuda really wanted to direct an action movie, and that kind of came up through conversation with our friend Danny, and I mean, it's true. Like they used a lot of like the race car stuff to pad the runtime of this movie. In fact, there's a lot of runtime padding.
There's so much. Yeah, I don't know if we're getting into our negatives yet, but yeah, that was part of my negatives. It's like I feel like the car chase scenes went on just a touch too long. Like
Right.
especially
Yeah.
towards the beginning. Yeah, I feel like they could have shortened that just a bit. It's just
Yeah,
like
they
okay.
yeah, just a little bit, but I get it. They're trying to turn a what is essentially a 25-minute film into a feature length movie by just padding the runtime and using all kinds of stock footage. Like I feel like Godzilla was swimming for like half the movie.
He really was. Like, listen, I timed the amount of time where I timed it, and Godzilla is only in the film for like 16 minutes, which that's not bad, but I think that's pretty close to the amount of time he's in some of the other films, but
It's
you can
close, yeah.
really feel his absence in this one. Like 15 out of the 16 minutes he's in the scene takes place towards the end of the film, and
Yeah.
then it just kind of it feels obvious.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's swimming for like ages. Like he gets stuck in traffic in the water or something. He runs into a whale or something. I don't know what's taking him so long to get there.
He had to stop in the middle of the Atlantic. He had to stop in the middle of the Pacific, I should say. He had to stop in the middle of the Pacific to let the whales cross. And he's just kind of sitting there like, come on, guys, I gotta get somewhere.
Come on. Megalon's acted a fool. I gotta go.
Right, I gotta go. Like I'm still gonna get there in time, but I need to get there early just so I can get this done and over with so I can go back home. That's the internal dialogue that I'm kind of putting on Godzilla for this movie. But what's interesting about that is, when the competition to design the new robot Jaguar began, it was made very clear that it would be an ally in an upcoming Godzilla film. Specific when Red Alone, which was the name, I think it was the name of the robot itself, was when it won, he was included in a script that was already being written by Sekizawa, called Insect Monster Megalon versus Godzilla: The Undersea Kingdom's Annihilation Strategy. So, this movie was intended to be a Godzilla movie from the get-go. It just doesn't necessarily feel that way.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Because Godzilla, like I said, Godzilla's only in it for like the final 15 minutes of the film. Aside from like like a bit of stock footage at the beginning, but that's about it.
Which some of that was a lot of that was like Destroy All Monsters stock footage, but some of it was new footage. Like
Yeah,
you can
some
tell
of it was new.
some of it was new footage when they used the new suit, but there was very little of it. A lot of people will say, and again, I was talking to Danny about this. He mentioned that it helped build. Yes, Godzilla doesn't feel like a Godzilla movie per se. It's intended to be a Godzilla movie. Godzilla's name is in the title, and Godzilla was there obviously, for the marquee value, but them holding on to him for so long and saving him for maybe the last 20 minutes of the film really built up the anticipation for it really built the anticipation for Godzilla, because really, we love our human characters. We love a good story, but we're here to see the monsters and we're here to see Godzilla. No matter how great a character Jet Jaguar is, we still want to see Godzilla. And this movie just doesn't feel like a Godzilla movie to me.
Yeah, at least not till the last 15, 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah. So we're waiting back and forth from our negatives and our positives. So Kim, what is some more negatives that you had for this movie?
I didn't have too many negatives, to be honest. I mean, we kind of mentioned some of them already, the padding of the runtime and the stock footage. But, I mean, the stock footage clips, it wasn't nearly as bad as it was in All Monsters Attack. Like, it wasn't, like, as blatantly obvious as it was in that movie. But,
Sure.
Yeah,
I think they used stock footage. I think they used it really well here.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they used it really well. Like All Monsters Attack, love it or hate it, was intended to be like a sort of a clip show. Like it's there for kids. It's there to maximize as much kaiju footage as humanly possible for the children.
All the
Uh,
children.
but for this, like you can tell when there's stock footage because they used a lot of stock footage from I think it was they used several stock footage from they used it from Godzilla versus Gigan, Ghidorah the three-headed monster, specifically when Megalon is attacking the city and using his his horn, and he can shoot lightning out of his horn, and they used the stock footage from Ghidorah to kind of help pad the runtime there, try to help add the effects there.
If I'm not mistaken, they also used a clip from War of the Gargantuas when Megalon's going through the trees.
That is a very common very common piece of stock footage that they like to use when there is a military battle in the countryside. They like to pull out that old War of the Gargantua stock footage.
Yeah.
There, but overall though, you really can't tell. There are some instances where you catch like really quick glimpses of Gigan when Gigan's not even showed up yet. You see some of that stuff. There was one instance where the planes were coming in to attack Megalon, and Megalon jumps up to swat the planes, but instead they used footage of Gigan's claw swatting the planes.
Yeah.
I mean, but that stuff really is not as obvious unless you're looking forward, unless you're looking forward for it. There we go. Unless you're looking for it, as it would be, say, in other films. So there was just a lot of stuff here that was to help pad the runtime, and I think that's probably one of the biggest complaints I have about this movie is there's just a lot of unnecessary things that helped make this a quote unquote movie instead of just a 25-minute henshin show.
I guess this is kind of a negative too. So when I first saw this movie, it got recorded off of TV, so some clips were cut out. But when I watched it on the DVD, I noticed something in the back of the truck where the Seatopians are.
Oh no!
It's a little something that's not meant for the eyes of children.
Wait, hang on. What are you putting this in your positives or negatives? Because depending on who you ask, this could either be a positive or a negative.
For me, it's a negative. I don't know about anyone else. I'm not going to speak for you or anyone else, but for me, that's not something that needs to be there. But it's there.
Yeah, and it's for those who are uninitiated, there is an infamous little it's not really even it's not pointed out in any specific way. It's just there. But in the scene where the Seatopians are in the truck and they've got our protagonists in the crate in the back of it, you can clearly see some photos of some
people who are they forgot their clothes at home.
Yes. They were definitely in their birthday suits. We'll say that. Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of those weird like canon things about the Godzilla franchise. It's like technically this is technically the first Godzilla movie to show nudity in kind of an indirect way. And then later on we see more in Terror of Mechagodzilla, which we won't go into that, but yeah, it's kind of, it is a little bit weird when you're watching this on TV or you're watching, I remember watching this movie on, I think it was New Year's Day. I was at Julie's house and we were watching Godzilla movies, and I want to say, yeah, we were watching Godzilla versus Megalon, and I cannot remember though if that scene was in there or if it was just blurred out or if it was just in there. I can't remember, but I remember watching this movie on TV as a kid, and that definitely not being there. And then,
yeah, because it wasn't until I watched it as an adult on the DVD, it was like, oh, there's a
nudie mag there. Okay,
alrighty then.
That's cool. I mean, you do you, but whatever.
Oh dear.
But no, yeah, it's just like I said, it's just one of those weird little canonized things within the Godzilla franchise that a lot of people just, it's there, it happened, move on, it's fine, whatever.
It's okay. I mean, you can only really see it if you look for it.
Right. If you're not really paying attention to it, you can barely see it. Like we talked about earlier, this is definitely intended to be a kids movie.
Hmm.
But there are some deeper themes within this movie, specifically talking about, nuclear testing and the effects on the environment and what happens when Mother Nature um basically lashes back, I guess.
Hmm.
So, and those are themes that like a lot of young kids, the audience that this movie is intended for, might not necessarily can grasp to. Like I know Japan's relationship with nuclear testing and things is a lot different than our relationship here in the States. But you know, it's still a pretty heavy theme, or pretty heavy something to address, even in what is intended to be a kids movie.
Hmm.
Like, so I was just going to ask you kind of what your thoughts on that are. Does it add to the story, or is it more or less just there as a plot point and it doesn't really get addressed in a meaningful way?
I'm. I mean, I'm feeling like it's just kind of there. I mean, I think it's just there to move the plot along and give
Sure.
Megalon a reason to exist.
Right.
Because they do kind of like briefly at the end, like oh, we're gonna warn the scientists about nuclear testing and stuff like that. But it's literally just a throwaway line at the very tail end of the movie, so I don't think it
Yeah.
really holds much weight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just there to it's just there to give our antagonists, our Cetopians, a reason to attack the surface. That's pretty much it. And it's a pretty convenient thing to do. Like there's a lot of like convenient plot point. There's a lot of plot convenience.
There's so many conveniences in this movie. It's
There's so
ridiculous.
much plot convenience in this movie. Like in
Like,
my
oh, Jaguar can just suddenly change his size. Like
yeah,
what?
it's like, I didn't know he could do that. Like, well, maybe he just magically learned by himself. Like,
Like,
oh,
oh,
that's
he reprogrammed himself.
yeah.
That should be a little concerning, actually. If a robot reprogrammed himself to do something, like I would be scared.
Maybe Jet Jaguar is the early. It's the early uh, iteration of Skynet.
Oh yeah,
So
yikes!
maybe Skynet from maybe the Terminators from the Terminator movie from the 80s. Maybe they were actually an evolution of technology derived from Jet Jaguar.
That is a possibility.
That is terrifying to think about, but and it's probably a really dark place to go if anyone wants to write a fanfic about that, about Jet Jaguar going rogue and basically uh being kind of like iRobot, but yeah, in a Japanese film. I don't know. Like I don't. I'm probably just talking out of my butt at this point, just making stuff up as I go,
I mean, how is that any different than any other time?
as I tend to do. I was just gonna say, like, and I know when Travis listens to this episode, he's gonna say, "Well, you just do that anyway, don't you?" I was like, "Well, yeah, kinda." Uh, one of my other negatives for this. Speaking of the Cetopians, like I kind of want more backstory about the Cetopians. Honestly,
Yeah, like we barely get anything. Like we get like a little bit of backstory from Antonio there, but it's just kind of glossed over for the most part.
yeah, it's just there to again move the story along.
Yeah,
Whew,
bless you.
thank you. But I really just wanted more backstory because I feel like there's more to explore there with the Cetopians than what we got. Like I basically want to know what their civilization was like before we started nuclear testing, why their god or why their mercenary is a gigantic roach kaiju. Um or and who tailors their outfits, because those white togas are just not flattering at all. Do they?
No, I wouldn't be caught dead and wearing one of those.
Well, like it takes a
I mean,
special.
maybe you would, but I'm
No,
not me.
no, 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 no. No. Mm-mm. I haven't honestly. I
I
haven't
mean,
been to.
honestly, I think you could totally rock a toga.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've been to one toga party in my life, and I hated it because it was incredibly uncomfortable, and I had a draft the whole time. So
Yeah,
take
that does
that.
sound uncomfortable.
Yeah, take that as any way you want to. But anyway, but yeah, I just kind of I wanted more backstory on the Seatopians, because I think there's a lot there that could be expanded upon, and I know. I think I think people have tried in like fanfics and comics and things. They've tried to do it, but it would just been really nice to have a little bit more explanation about the Seatopians and what the civilization was like, quote unquote, 3 million years ago. Like those people look astoundingly well for 3 million years old. I would just say that.
Maybe there's
But
some sort of fountain of youth in Seatopia.
maybe we just need to go down there and drink some of that Kool-Aid and uh, never get old. I guess I don't know.
Sounds good to me. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, the Seatopians, they're a fascinating little group within Godzilla canon, and I know that a lot of the the alien antagonists like the Exilians and the Keloks, they get most of the recognition um, throughout the franchise, or even the Simians from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. They get a lot of that love from the franchise, but I really want some Seatopian stuff. Like I really want to know about these Seatopian people because if nothing else, they sound like a hoot to go to a party with.
Yeah, they sound like fun to hang out with. And I tweeted about this the other day as I was watching.
Mhm.
You know how Mothra and King Caesar have cool songs to wake up to, but like,
Yes.
where's Megalon's song? Like, Megalon has to put up with Megalon, Megalon,
Wake up, Megalon.
destroy
And
the
it's
Earth, destroy our enemies. And
like
then
that is
Megalon's just like, what? I'm sleeping. Leave me alone.
for Megalon. You've just got, hey, wake up, go, destroy the Earth. No,
Just like an obnoxious alarm clock.
yeah, it's like shut up, little man, with your toga. I can crush you with my ginormous drill hand. Um, So anyway, uh, so that's the Seatopians, and we would be remiss if we did not talk about a couple of things, and we can try to maybe start landing the plane here. But Jet Jaguar, old Jet Jaguar.
Jet Jaguar is the best. I love him. He's my
Well,
boy.
tell me now. I've grown to love Jet Jaguar over the years. He was never my favorite character though. Um, Tell me, first of all, who give a description to the uninitiated what Jet Jaguar is and what you like about him or it. We don't know its gender.
Yeah, let's just call it for now, I guess. But yeah, he's just a giant robot with a cool design that can change size and beat up kaiju. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, that's why I like him. And he's just like a friend to the protagonist or human protagonists, and he flies too, so that's cool.
So he is the robot equivalent to Gamera.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. The friend, because I thought for a second there you were gonna say he was a friend to all children, but he's only friend to
He's
this.
friend to the Kenny of this movie.
Right. He's friend to this. He's just friend to this child. He hates all the other kids.
All the
He
other
just
kids suck. Just
Yeah,
this one Kenny
just
he
this
likes.
one. Yeah, exactly. I can see Jet Jaguar saying, "I like you," and then this other kid comes over and says, "Jet, can I ride on your back?" No, get away from me. But yeah, that's like so Jet is a really fun character and who is really beloved by like Godzilla fans. Like a lot of Godzilla fans love Jet Jaguar. Like there's so much Jet Jaguar fanfic. There's so much Jet Jaguar. There's been, Jet Jaguar was featured as a main character in the recent Godzilla Singular Point.
Mhm.
And it's just a really iconic character for Toho, and just a really iconic character for Japanese monster movies in general. And I just think it's a great character. It's never, like I said, it's never been my favorite character of the franchise, but he has definitely grown on me over time.
Yeah, he's a great character. I love him. I've always liked him even as a kid, and like he just it seems like he always has like this permanent smile on his face. You know, I like it.
Yeah,
It looks like he's smiling. At least to me, he does.
I think so. Like, it's either a smile or a "I'm gonna kill you" grin. I like to think it's just a smile.
Yeah, let's go with the smile for for the children.
For the children.
All the children.
I'm having flashbacks to your Toys for Tots stream now. Like, for the children.
All the children.
Let us make a fool of ourselves for the children.
All the children. Cold
But
open.
for the children. Okay.
All the children.
But there's Jet Jaguar, he's great. Jet Jaguar is great. There's not a ton as far as the tokusatsu element to this movie. There's not a ton to complain about. Like, the effects in this movie are done undone really well. Like, I would expect nothing less from a Godzilla movie. Like, it's been rare that we've had a Godzilla movie that just looked awful. And I know a lot of fans kind of hate on this movie. They're like, "Oh, it's all done in just the open field. Why can't we do it? Why can't?" And they just use the city stuff with stock footage. Like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, they were
Take
they were
the stick out of your butt, man.
they were just trying to save money. People, come on.
Take the stick out of your butt and just enjoy the movie.
I will. But speaking of sort of the tokusatsu stuff, like the special effects and for the uninitiated, so all tokusatsu means is very special effects, or special effect making, or special effect. I don't know. There's another word out there that I'm probably missing, but it's essentially special effects, Japanese special effects. So one of the most, I would say, impressive scenes in this movie is the dam scene, and not the DAMN scene, but the
Yeah.
DAM scene,
Mhm.
where Megalon first comes to the surface and he approaches the dam, and he has sort of that. I don't know if this was on purpose or what, but he has sort of that Godzilla 54 moment where he's just he just appears over the ridge of the mountainside.
Yeah.
That's a common shot with a lot of kaiju films, but it specifically brings to mind like Godzilla 1954. But like that whole sequence of events where, Megalon is coming down the mountainside and destroys the dam, and just all of that, I feel like worked incredibly well as a special effect.
I agree. That worked really well. It was really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like this movie is very, this movie's kind of very open. It's in, like I said, the battle between the Gigan, Megalon, Jet Jaguar, and Godzilla is set in like an open field, and so there's not a lot of like visual things to look at there except for the monsters. But in the moments that really good special effects are used, and specifically special effects that show scale of the monsters, and scale specifically of Megalon, it's done really well, and the dam scene kind of reinforces that. Now, I will say my only gripe about that whole sequence was, if I were in that crate and if I got kicked by a kaiju,
Mhm.
I seriously doubt that I would have survived that.
Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna mention. Like, how did they survive being, tossed into oblivion in a metal crate, no less?
Right. Yeah, with their hands tied behind their backs, and no way to free themselves, and no way to like really kind of brace their fall. Like, how are you going to do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, but plot convenience
Yeah.
is really all I can think. But the whole build up there, I thought was well done. It was suspenseful. It served its purpose. It served its purpose to the plot well.
Mhm.
And it's one of the better scenes in this movie. But we would be remiss if we did not talk about the most iconic scene from
Yes.
this movie. So Kim, I'm going to let you do the honors. I want you to take us in and give us a visual picture of the most iconic scene. And I would dare say, not just in Godzilla versus Megalon, but the most iconic scene in Godzilla media, period.
I mean, it's pretty freaking iconic, I gotta say. Okay. All right, so we're in the final moments of the film. Jet Jaguar has got Megalon, he's holding him back. Godzilla gets a running start, and he balances on his tail, and you just see him fly across the screen and give him a nice drop kick. It's so beautiful.
So on a scale of meh to it's freaking glorious, what would you rate that scene?
I think you know my answer. It was freaking glorious.
That's and a lot of people point to that scene when they talk about like how cheesy and campy and stupid these movies are. But you know what? It just adds to the character. It just adds to the fun of this movie. This movie that set out to be a family-friendly kids action adventure movie where they've got a brand new character with Jet Jaguar that plays like an Ultraman type character, because for those who don't know this, Ultraman is actually more popular in Japan than even Godzilla is. Like Ultraman is more ingrained into pop culture. Ultraman is, if I could put it in terms that a lot of like Western fans could understand, Ultraman is Japan's Superman, basically.
Yeah,
Essentially,
basically.
he is Japan's Superman. Where I would say probably Kamen Rider is probably Japan's Batman, because
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not quite sure where Super Sentai falls with there. I would venture to say that Super Sentai is like Japan's Avengers. We'll go there.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll go there. But in terms of this movie, like speaking of like this movie in particular, um, it just adds to a scene like that. Just adds to the charm of it. And like I said, you have like two new characters, Megalon and Jet Jaguar, and both being very both have had an uptick in popularity as time has went on. I don't know what the popularity of these characters are either in Japan today or Japan back in the 70s, but I know in the circles that kind of we run in, Megalon and Jet Jaguar has kind of had an uptick in popularity, over the years. So, there's just a lot to love about Godzilla versus Megalon. And that very iconic scene where Godzilla does the tail glide and kicks Megalon in the chest, that just adds twice. That just adds to the charm and to the lore of Godzilla. I know there was a conversation to be had around, I think it was around when GVK was in theaters or after it left theaters or whatever, and people were talking about like, well, Godzilla can't smile. Okay.
Oh, not loud.
Okay.
Again, I say, take the stick out of your butt and just enjoy the movie.
Okay, so Godzilla can't smile, but he can verbally talk to other kaiju. He can fly, because that's a thing. He can glide on his tail to drop kick somebody, but you don't want him to smile. That's odd. Okay.
Godzilla has too much joy. I don't like it.
Godzilla especially in Godzilla versus Megalon, Godzilla is just pure joy.
He is so much.
And this movie is just, in my opinion, this movie is just pure joy.
It really is.
And as I'm talking, like I'm actively in my mind, I'm actively thinking about changing my score from what I have it already to something different, because I am just kind of reflecting on this movie and reflecting what I watched and then having this conversation with you. Godzilla versus Megalon just brings you pure joy. So you know. Kim, before we land this plane, do you have anything else that you want to add? Any positives, negatives, just any thoughts, opinions that you want to maybe trigger some folks with?
Well, I guess I can just go into my final thoughts. If that's all right with you, good
Sure,
sir?
let's go for it. Let's go for it.
All right, but yeah, so I think everyone should see this movie at least once. I mean, it's obviously not a perfect movie because a perfect movie does not exist.
Sure.
Um, but there's a lot to love about it. It's goofy, it's fun, it has a lot of entertainment value. It's one of those movies where you can just sit back, make fun of it, and have a good time. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I love this movie. I love it to death, and there's nothing you can say to make me not love it. But I also love making fun of it because that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, movies are generally made for entertainment, and I, for one, was very entertained by this movie, both as a child and as an adult.
Yeah.
So, those are my final thoughts.
All right. All right. So I will go ahead and give my final thoughts and then we'll give our Godzuki score in just a minute. But my final thoughts on this movie, I'm going to go ahead and reiterate something that our friend Danny said to me about this movie because it is incredibly true. And what he said was, Godzilla versus Megalon is really a 25-minute Henshin Hero kaiju TV show episode masquerading as a feature-length movie. A lot of stuff just didn't need to be there. I love the film to death, but the padding is obvious. And I'm gonna tack on and say, yes, that's true. The padding is incredibly obvious, and there's a lot of stuff that we've mentioned in the episode that could have been cut out. But my final thoughts are: if you like Godzilla, watch this film. And I know a lot of folks out there listening to this who are interested in Godzilla, you've probably already seen this movie before. You probably already have an opinion formed about this movie, either in the positive or the negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage you, if you're listening to this, after you listen to this episode, go back and rewatch this movie and try to find some stuff in it that you either didn't notice or you weren't necessarily thinking about when you watched it maybe the time before. Because I know for a lot of fans, this is not super high on their list. They may not watch it very often. So it's probably been, I would venture to say it's probably been a hot minute since you've probably watched Godzilla versus Megalon. And I'm just going to encourage you to go watch it because it is really a fun movie. And there is, it may be shallow depth, but there is depth to it. It's a very simplistic plot. There's a lot of things in it. There's a lot of stuff put into this. There's a lot of stuff put into this movie just for plot convenience, and we can't ignore that. But overall, as a film and as an escapist popcorn movie, just something you can enjoy with your significant other or even by yourself, it's great. And I would recommend anyone go watch Godzilla versus Megalon. And I think that, as I'm kind of talking and as I'm thinking and reflecting here, my opinion is slowly changing about this movie. I was one of those guys that used to hate this movie. I used to dish all over this movie, and for good reason. But still, I think there's a lot here to enjoy, and I think that if you go back and you watch it again, you're going to find something that you really like about this too. So that's my final thoughts. But we can't wrap up the actual film discussion until, Kim, we give our Godzuki score. And for those who are uninitiated to our podcast, we like to pay tribute to the great and powerful Godzuki by using him as our yardstick to rate movies. So, Kim, what Godzuki score, and you have to sing it,
Okay.
would you give Godzilla versus Megalon?
I changed my score a couple of times, but you know what? I love this movie so much that I'm just going to have to give this a 5 out of 5 Godzilla.
Wow. Okay. think that's the first time I've ever heard someone give Godzilla versus Megalon a 5 out of 5. You did say, I want to make sure you did say a 5 out of 5.
I
right?
said 5 out of 5. I'm
Wow.
sticking with it. I love
Okay.
this movie to death. I love it so much. I will defend it to my grave.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Well, that is completely respectable. That is completely respectable. And, I can totally see where you got to that score. So for me, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 Godzookies, because although this is not a perfect movie, it's still a fun movie. And people who have listened to this show before, they know my criteria for judging movies. As long as a film entertains me and it fulfills its purpose of being entertainment, then that's really all I need in a lot of cases. Now, there are some films that like Howl from Beyond the Fog that have a very deeper message that you have to kind of analyze from that point of view, that are like have like good, like a lot of cultural significance. But for me, like this movie is just so incredibly entertaining. It like, I put this on par with other films in the Godzilla franchise that just entertain me, like Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from 91. I know a lot of people hate that movie too, but I love it. And because it's just something that you can kind of curl up in a blanket and watch and enjoy and smile and laugh, and it just has pretty much anything you would want in a Godzilla film. So that's my score, 4.5 Godzookies. Kim, I think you're the first person again to ever give Godzilla versus Megalon a 5 out of 5, which is totally respectable.
Yeah,
And
I'm unapologetically giving it 5 out of 5.
and for that, ma'am, you are a freaking legend.
Why, thank you.
So, audio listener, that wraps up our discussion on Godzilla vs. Megalon. If you enjoyed it, please let us know by emailing us at kaijuweekly@gmail.com, or give us a shout out on Twitter at kaijuweekly and tell us how much you enjoyed the discussion or how much you thought we were totally off base. We want to hear that too. So, Kim, let me ask you, we do another little thing on this show. We do another segment on this show. Do you know what that segment is?
Is it the mailbag?
It's the mailbag.
What's in the mail today?
And this week's mailbag comes from our good friend, Mr. Nicholas Blackler. And Nick writes, I would love to know not only what each of your favorite Godzilla scores are, which I think I've heard you mention in the past, but also what other types of music do each of you enjoy? Favorite artists, bands, etc. So thanks, Nick. And Kim, since you are my guest, I will let you answer this one first.
All right, cool. So as far as Godzilla scores go, I love the score from the Heisei era, especially from Return of Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Biollante, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. I find those very enjoyable. As for other types of music I enjoy, I tend to lean towards rock and metal, but I'll listen to pop every once in a while.
Okay.
Let's see. I absolutely love Evanescence.
I was waiting for it. To come up. Okay.
Yes, the Evanescence is my favorite band. They've been my favorite band since I was 15 years old. I'm actually seeing them this coming Saturday, which by the time this episode goes up will have already passed. But yes, I'll be seeing Evanescence very soon, so I'm excited about that, provided that the concert is not postponed again, because it was already postponed once. Thank you, COVID. All right, so other artists I like are Lindsey Sterling, Metallica, Shinedown, 3 Days Grace, Then Temptation, and Avenged Sevenfold.
Nice. I'm actually supposed to be seeing Shinedown. I think we're going to, I think Julie and I are going to Pittsburgh, maybe? Pittsburgh or Nashville, something like that. They're going to be, I want to say in February, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm supposed to go to a Shinedown concert because I too like Shinedown. But let me back up and give my answer for my favorite Godzilla score. So, I don't know if I've actually talked about it on the podcast, my favorite Godzilla score. And honestly, Nick, the answer to this question fluctuates depending on what kind of mood or what movies I've watched recently. But usually the score that sticks out the most to me as far as a Godzilla score goes is the one from Invasion of Astro Monster or Godzilla versus Monster Zero. I think Godzilla versus Monsters, the score to Godzilla versus Monster Zero is fantastic. I just it is Akira Ifukube at his best. The music and the tone just matches the film perfectly, and I just think that it's just a well done score to almost a perfect Godzilla movie, in my opinion. If I had to give an honorable mention, I'm gonna side with Kim here and say that the score to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 from the Heisei era is a really great score. That one, the opening theme to that movie is chef's kiss. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
That is in fact I have that song on my playlist for when I go to the gym, when I go work out, because it's like the dirty brass and the dirty, like the horns and everything just kind of coming in together, and you've got that I don't know how to put it, but it's just such a good score for Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, especially that opening theme song to the movie is just wonderful. I'm almost tempted to go and watch that movie after we get done recording here because I love that score so darn much. As for like other artists, like other songwriters, I'm kind of an old soul. I do like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and some of that genre of music. I love Frank Sinatra's. I love Frank Sinatra. I love putting a Frank Sinatra album on and just kind of hanging out in the evening and just maybe reading a book or just something like that, just to kind of just relax with. But believe it or not, I don't listen to a ton of music. I listen to more podcasts and audiobooks than I listen to music, but I am really heavily into rock and metal. Like one of my all-time favorite bands growing up, or when I got to be a teenager, was Motorhead. Loved Motorhead, loved Metallica, Megadeth, all those bands. And I still listen to that stuff today. I'm not big on like more contemporary artists. I don't care for hip hop all that much. If I do listen to hip hop, it's old school hip hop like Biggie Smalls, Tupac, etc. That kind of stuff. But it's very few and far between that I listen to hip hop, honestly. Like I don't think I've listened to an Eminem song in 15 years, something like that. I don't know. It just never was something that I was into. Like the whole hip hop culture and that whole thing. It just never was something that really appealed to me. When like growing up, I always hung out with the stoner kids and the rocker kids and the kids in the band that played the guitar and stuff like that. And I hung out with those guys, and I got to really enjoy bands like Queen and The Who and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all that. And that's the stuff that I love. That's the stuff that I listen to constantly when I'm in my free time. But taking it back to kaiju, Godzilla, probably, like I said, Godzilla versus Monster Zero, and a very close runner up would be Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 from 1993. So thank you so much, Nick, for that question. You're a great listener, and that was a fantastic question. If you want to be cool like Nick and send us a mailbag question, you can by emailing us at kaijuweekly@gmail.com, or you can just tweet at us at kaijuweekly on Twitter, or you can find us hanging out in the Kaiju Groupie Facebook group or on Instagram. There are ways to find us. So if you have a mailbag question, or if you have something that is burning in your soul to ask Travis or I or one of our guests, please reach out to us and we will read that on a future episode. So, Kim, the only thing left to do for this episode is to ask the trivia question for the next episode that we're going to do of Kaiju Weekly. And again, for the uninitiated, we like to ask trivia questions that helps lead into an episode or a movie or a TV show that we're going to be reviewing in a future episode. So the trivia question for next week goes like this. A gymnastics maneuver used in the 1964 Summer Olympics in Tokyo called the Ultra C helped inspire the name of this 1966 Kaiju TV series. So there's your trivia question for next week. And if you have an answer for us, please, we'll post it up on social media. You can email us at kaijuweekly@gmail.com, or you can wait for us to post it on our Twitters and you can answer it there. And again, it doesn't have to be the right answer as you've seen in this episode. It just has to be a answer, and we will read that out on a future episode. So, Kim, thank you so much for doing this with us, or with me rather. I wish Travis could be here, but as I've said in other episodes or other times on the podcast, that Travis is dealing with his own stuff right now, and full disclosure, he just lost his grandmother. For anyone who doesn't know, that's not a secret. He actually did post something on Twitter about it, but I thank you, Kim, for stepping in when he couldn't be here. And I know Travis deeply appreciates it, and I deeply appreciate it. So before we go, do you want to give any plugs, anything that you want to tell the folks before we get out of here?
Yeah, sure. So once again, I am known as Kaiju Kim on YouTube. You can check out my show, Chill with Kaiju Kim, live on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I will also be launching a new channel pretty soon where I'll be uploading my short film projects that I'll be making throughout this year and beyond. Some of it will be kaiju related, but most of it will not be. A few people know the name of the channel already, but I haven't officially announced it yet. But if you want to know when I do announce it, you can follow me on Twitter at Kaiju Kim to stay up to date. That is all.
It's not it's not Kaiju Sassafras, is it? Where you just get sassy with the audience and you just
Oh no, that's a different thing.
or it's not a podcast where you get your fiance on camera and ask him a bunch of random questions about kaiju that he doesn't know. It's not something like that, is it?
No, but I do plan on having him on my show around Valentine's Day, so there's going to be a little bit of that.
I am so looking forward to that. I will pray for your fiance, and please, Kim, for the love of Godzilla, just have mercy on him. That's all I got. That's all I ask.
All right, no promises.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Kim, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for listening and sharing this podcast with your friends. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, we are at Kaiju Weekly. All the links to our social media, as well as the Kaiju Groupie Facebook group, are listed in the description of this episode. You can send questions, comments, or answers to the trivia questions to our email, kaijuweekly@gmail.com. A big thank you to everyone who has supported Kaiju Ramen magazine so far. If you want to go find out more about that project, check out kaijuRamenmedia.com, because a little something that people don't know yet, we are actually trying to consolidate all of our podcasts, this podcast, the Henshin Men podcast, and the Power Trip podcast, all under one banner of Kaiju Ramen Media to help make it a little bit more cohesive with everything else we've got going on. So you can go check out that project at kaijuRamenmedia.com. And there's one more thing, Kim, they can do to help support this podcast, and that is by going over to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a 5-star review. Actually, you can go do that on Spotify as well. I didn't know that until just the other day. But if you leave us a 5-star review or a rating, you don't have to leave a review, just leave us a 5-star rating. What that's going to do is that's going to help put this show in front of other kaiju, tokusatsu, and just general giant monster fans just like you. It's going to help us grow. It's going to help us do more fun projects like with our wonderful friend Kim here and with Kaiju Ramen Media. And we would just deeply, deeply appreciate it. So to close out this episode, we have to say, help control the giant monster population. Have your Megalons spayed or neutered?
Yeah,
Megalon, neuter, Megalon.
Megalon, neuter. Megalon. Oh my god.
Bye, guys. Thank you so
Bye.
much.